Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are throwing on our digital detective hats to investigate something that is, frankly, absolutely bizarre. We're looking at a digital footprint that just makes zero logical sense. The source material basically hands us two totally isolated artifacts. We've got a completely shattered, error-filled web page and this really mysterious empty file. So buckle up because we're going to dive deep into the strange, glitchy world of what the source actually calls the horror stories of 25. So, to kick things off, let's look at the central question we're dealing with. What happened on May 12th, 2026? Now, this isn't just some random date we pulled out of thin air. It's actually the exact title of the primary media file we're analyzing today, a file that is basically sitting dead center in this very strange web of metadata. It's one of those details that immediately hooks you, right? It totally forces us to ask, are we looking at some kind of prediction, a weird placeholder, or just a genuine temporal glitch in the system's architecture? Okay, let's dive right into this. 2026. The source material presents us with a piece of media explicitly titled with this future-facing date. It's super jarring right out of the gate. You know, in the highly organized, chronologically strict world of database management and content hosting, seeing a date that literally hasn't even happened yet, that immediately flags this artifact as a huge anomaly. It sets this incredibly eerie, disjointed tone for the whole rest of the explainer.
But man, the mystery deepens literally immediately. Check out this direct, undeniable contradiction. The title of the file, as we just talked about, is 12 May 2026. Yet, right beneath it in the source data, the system timestamp firmly declares it was published just 1 hour ago. I mean, how do these two temporal realities even coexist? On the one hand, the content claims to be from a highly specific day in the future. On the other, the server itself is insisting it was uploaded in the immediate past. The underlying logic of the platform is literally already starting to fracture.
Which brings us to Section 2, Anomalies in Metadata, the Isolated Channel. Now, what's really interesting about this next piece of the puzzle is the sheer isolation it illustrates, treating this whole thing like a digital crime scene. We obviously look for fingerprints, context, really anything that grounds this artifact in reality. But what we find instead is this profound, almost echoing emptiness. We're looking at the creator's data here. The channel handle is listed as @Shantanu Bogian, G1H, and the total output of this creator, exactly one single video. This is definitely not some bustling hub of daily content. It's more like a solitary drop in a massive digital ocean. There are absolutely no other uploads, no community posts, no playlists. Just this single, paradoxical file sitting entirely alone under the banner of Horror Stories of 25. And then we hit the engagement data. 3. That is the total number of views on this file. I actually want to slow down for a second and really let that metric sink in. Just 3 views. In a digital landscape where algorithms are constantly pushing content to thousands of screens a second, this specific file has been seen exactly 3 times. And as we're about to discover, the file itself is seemingly completely broken. So you really have to ask, who or what were those 3 viewers? Did they somehow manage to see what the rest of us are completely prevented from seeing?
Well, despite the incredibly tiny view count and those bizarre conflicting dates we just talked about, the platform does give us this one undeniable metric: 4 minutes and 35 seconds. This is absolutely crucial because it proves that a tangible actual media file does exist on that server. It has a definitive beginning, a middle, and an end, taking up a highly specific chunk of time. There is actual data there. The system recognizes the weight and the duration of the file, even if it absolutely refuses to let us experience the thing.
Which naturally transitions us right into Section 3, the locked playback, a wall of errors. So this is exactly where our investigation hits a massive roadblock. We know the file exists, we know for a fact it's 4.5 minutes long, but when the playback interface is initiated, the system just completely shuts down. And those mundane user interface error messages, they suddenly stop feeling like innocent server glitches, and they start feeling like active locked doors intentionally keeping us out. If playback doesn't begin shortly, try restarting your device. Look, we have all seen this standard message, right? But in this specific context, it carries this really eerie, authoritative weight to it. The system is actively deflecting the blame for this broken artifact right back onto the user. It's basically suggesting that your device is the problem, not the bizarre, future-dated, totally solitary file sitting on its servers. It is a classic case of digital misdirection. But the rejection doesn't actually stop there. First, the interface flatly tells us your browser can't play this video. Okay, then when an attempt is made to extract a link to maybe investigate a little further, it throws up yet another defensive wall. An error occurred while retrieving sharing information. Please try again later. The platform isn't just failing to load the media, it is actively defending it. It's preventing playback and it's preventing us from even retrieving a simple share link to pass on. The file is, for all intents and purposes, completely quarantined by the interface. And this brilliantly illustrates the complete collapse of the interface. Think about the text from the video player track, where we should normally see the current timestamp and the total length. We instead see NAN/NAN, literally, not a number. The foundational math of the digital player has just simply given up. The system obviously knows the file is 4 minutes and 35 seconds long in the metadata, as we saw earlier, but the actual player track just cannot comprehend it. It's a complete breakdown of digital logic presented plain as day.
This brings us to our final piece of evidence. Section 4, the empty note.
So, desperately hoping for some kind of key or maybe some missing context that explains the whole horror stories of 25 thing, we turn to this supplementary file. But the crucial point here is, there is absolutely nothing there. It's just the default text, new note. It is a completely blank void. There's no text, no explanation, absolutely no hidden code. Just an empty document sitting adjacent to one of the most fractured, isolated media files we have ever analyzed. It's the ultimate, frustrating dead end, and it just adds this profound silence to our whole digital mystery.
Which ultimately leaves us staring into a complete digital ghost town. We have a future-dated file from an hour ago hosted on a totally isolated channel, completely locked behind a wall of math-breaking errors, and accompanied by a totally blank note. But the most haunting detail of all remains. Because despite the errors and despite the quarantine, the system still recorded engagement. So I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought to ponder. Who were the 3 viewers? What exactly did they see in that 4 minutes and 35 seconds that we are completely blocked from viewing? It really does make you wonder about the hidden anomalies just hiding out in the metadata of our own digital lives. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep looking closely at the details, and I will see you next time.